Coming up next on Your World.
After you discovered the truth, nobody volunteered that information. What was the process you had to go through to finally get the truth?
Well, I think I was trying to heal. And I kind of knew, like I had kind of put two and two together, because around maybe 8 or 9 years old, my dad began to change. He had like a earring in his ear. He began to lose a little weight. You know, he had a little swag now. And I'm like, okay, Daddy, what's going on? But still, I was young. I still didn't know. And so when I look back, I'm like, oh, okay, this is probably when he was just like completely in that lifestyle, because he wasn't at home a lot. But again, he's here, she's up here. We're still in the same house. And on the outside, we're the perfect family. I'm little Alicia. They do music. They write songs. We travel the world. We're great. But inside the house, it is a hot mess. It is a disaster.
So you had the appearance of a
Yes.
family that's close and doing all these things.
Yes.
But there was
They wrote songs together, produced together. We traveled together. I mean, it was their show. For a long time, I really thought that God just didn't love me. It just seemed like whoever loved me, they were gonna die. It wasn't just my mom and dad that I had lost. I had lost a few aunts, my godmom. And so I had this mindset that if you love me, you're gonna die. So I found myself trying to put up, just kind of like a wall, with those who did, and not knowing how to receive it, because in my mind, I'm like, why is all this bad stuff happening? Because when I would look around, my friends, they had their moms and dads, everybody was happy, and I'm looking at my life like, wait, what's going on? Like, this is not like what I see. I had been so hurt. When you lose both your mom and your dad, and you're an only child, on top of that, it's almost like my world is not here anymore. The people that I've known my whole life that love me are not here anymore. And now I felt alone a lot.
Changing one life, time after time. Oh Lord, we do it all for you.
Through the trials I see, I'll always believe a new life starts with me. Oh, change your world today. Change is gonna come your way. Change and get an understanding. His grace will transform you.
Praise God. Welcome. Hello, I'm Creflo, and welcome to a very special episode of Your World. Now today, we're going to talk about family secrets. I think it's safe to say that all families have secrets, but the type of secrets kept are what really makes the difference, right? Now, if you're planning a surprise trip for the family to the Grand Canyon, well, that's a harmless secret. But there are some family secrets that are so traumatic, so life-altering, that it can take years for that family to recover once those secrets are revealed. People often keep secrets from their loved ones in an effort to avoid causing them pain, but that can and often does backfire. Revealing long-kept secrets can destroy relationships, cause suspicion, resentment, and deep trust issues, and can cause people to question their own sense of reality. They often wonder what is real and what other secrets their families might be keeping from them. My guest today always knew that her family life was confusing when she was growing up, but she never suspected the secret that would ultimately claim the lives of both her mother and her father. And once she learned the truth, it was too late to talk to them. It was too late to ask questions, or even to tell them she forgives them. Now, I want you to stay right where you are, because today we're going to talk to a courageous lady who has suffered great loss and who has a message to share with you about how important it is that families get real with each other and stop hiding the truth. Because, as we all know, the truth always comes out in the end. That's what we're talking about today, right here, right now. on Your World. Welcome back. Now, my guest today is Alicia Watson. Now, Alicia's family kept a secret that ended up taking the lives of both of her parents by the time she was just 15 years old. Today, Alicia is going to share her story with us and tell us of the long-lasting ramifications of keeping secrets within a family. Alicia, welcome to Your World.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You know, when I was thinking about, what you've experienced and thinking about what the show is going to be about today, one of the things I want to make sure that our television audience understands is that this is pretty serious. We're not talking about keeping a secret about a surprise birthday party.
No.
There are serious ramifications and consequences for deep family secrets that they have consequences. And number one, the first thing a family secret will do, it will destroy relationships. A communication breakdown, bonds that were established within relationships may not be able to be rectified and fixed. Number two, keeping horrific family secrets will impact children, especially if somehow, some way they feel responsible.
Exactly.
The third thing that we look at is when you keep a family secret, it'll be the cause for suspicion and resentment. Now, there's really no reason why you should think that this family member is lying to me. I mean, you're thinking they're going to be honest, they're truthful. But when you find out that that trust has been violated, especially protected within a lie, then that's serious business there. The fourth thing that happens when you keep these type of family secrets, it alters your reality. I mean, most of the thing a kid learns, he learns from an adult. And when he hears about this thing, his reality changes from what he thought to what he just heard. And, if you're not careful, he may repeat that same cycle of keeping family secrets over and over again. And then the fifth thing is keeping those family secrets, they cause illness. And family secrets divide. It puts a division between those who know or knew and those who didn't know. Now, in light of all that, can you relate with one or two or several of those?
I can relate to all of them.
Wow.
Actually, my big family secret was that my dad had an affair with a priest that was in our church when I was younger. Through that, was able to get HIV, which later turned into full-blown AIDS. And so that was a secret that my family didn't really know how to talk about. No one really knew how to deal with that. And so I didn't really know the exact truth until I was about 25 years old.
Mm-hmm. So when your father died, you were 10,
I was
right?
10.
And what were you told as far as
I was
the cause
told
of
that
the death?
he had cancer. Around that time, that's when it got really huge, and it seemed like everybody was dying from cancer. So I'm like, oh, my dad has cancer. He was sick. He was in and out of the hospital. And so, I'm 10. So I'm like, okay. He had that. In my mind, I think I knew that something was wrong because maybe around 4 or 5 years old, my mom and dad really didn't sleep in the same room anymore. She was up here, he was down here. They used to, fuss, they used to argue. And so I knew that something wasn't right, but I was still a child. So I really didn't know what it was. And so, like I said, I didn't really find out the exact truth until I was about 25 years old. And that came from me actually having to go to someone and say, hey, what happened?
Wow. So at 10, your father died. You were told it was because of cancer. Mm-hmm. And then 5 years later, what happens?
Well, we came home. I think we had just moved to Atlanta maybe a couple of months ago. And that was kind of like a surprise. She had told me that we might be moving to Atlanta, but when we got to Atlanta, she was like, oh, we're staying here. And she called some people to pack up our house and sell it. So that was that. So we're driving home and we're in the car and she's like, Alicia, I have something to tell you. And she pulls into, the driveway. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Hey, Mom, what's up? And she's like, I have that disease. And I was like, oh, you mean, the big C, cancer. Because again, around that time, it just seemed like a lot of people had it, et cetera. That's okay, Mommy, you're going to get past that. And she's like, no, I have AIDS. And so I just looked at her. Then I got out of the car and I went to the bedroom and I just cried. I cried my eyes out. And I could hear my grandmother saying, why'd you tell her? She's too young. She doesn't need to know that. Esther, why'd you tell her that? And I didn't know a lot about the disease, but I knew that you got it pretty much if you were doing certain things. So around that time, I was still like, okay, where's my mama? Like, what? Like, I still was trying to put two and two together. But that was a really rough day for me because I didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't know how to talk to her, as well, because the next thing I had was, well, do I have it? Like, am I going to die too? Like, is there something you want to tell me about that? And so the way that she was able to deal with it, she just really closed up. Like before my mother was sick, she would be singing on a piano. She loved music. After she got sick, she didn't sing anymore. She didn't play anymore. It was just kind of like, I'm here. Exactly around 5 years. I was 14 at the time, and so it was 5 days before I turned 15. And so on that day, she passed, and her funeral was held on my 15th birthday. Oh. I buried my mother on my birthday.
And what was the cause of her death?
Full-blown AIDS.
So in your mind at that time, your father's died at 10 of cancer.
Of cancer.
Your mother died when you were around, on your birthday, your 15th birthday, of full-blown AIDS. And I'm sure at that time you're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here?
Yes, I was trying to put it together. I was like, okay, were they doing drugs? Like, what was going on? And so, again, I finally found out that while my mom and dad were together, my dad, I guess, was what you would say was on the down low. Uh-huh. And so he was having relations with men, and they didn't want to get a divorce because of me. They loved me. They didn't know who was going to have me, that sort of thing. So they decided to stay in the same house for me, which of course I didn't know.
Were you ever told that the only reason we stayed together was because of you?
My dad actually did. Before he died, he told me that. After
you discovered the truth, nobody volunteered that information. Mm-mm. What was the process you had to go through to finally get the truth?
Well, I think I was trying to heal. And I kind of knew, like I had kind of put two and two together because around maybe 8 or 9 years old, my dad began to change. He had like a earring in his ear. He began to lose a little weight. He had a little swag now. And I'm like, okay, Daddy, what's going on? But still, I was young. I still didn't know. And so when I look back, I'm like, oh, okay, this is probably when he was just like completely in that lifestyle because he wasn't at home a lot. But again, he's here, she's up here. We're still in the same house. And on the outside, we're the perfect family. I'm little Alicia. They do music. They write songs. We travel the world. We're great. But inside the house, it is a hot mess. It is a disaster.
So you had the appearance of a
yes.
family that's close and doing all these things.
Yes.
But there was
They wrote songs together, produced together. We traveled together. I mean, it was their show,
Not only that, I heard that at the age of 1, you were actually blessed by Pope John Paul?
I was. My dad was very well known in the Catholic Church, and he wrote a mass. And I don't know how it got to Rome. I don't know if he sent it, but the Pope was like, I like your mass. I'm flying your choir, and we're going to Rome. And so we went to Rome. I was around 1 year old. And so he saw me there, and he was like, who's that? And my dad was like, well, that's my daughter. He's like, well, can I hold her? I think for me, that was the first sign of God just allowing me to know I have my hand on you.
And actually after finding out this family secret and knowing that experience took place with the Pope, How'd you feel about that? You were blessed by the Pope, and yet all this stuff happens, and you lose your mom at 10, you lose your dad at 15, you find out this big traumatic issue that was in the family the whole time. I'm sure it altered your reality big time.
It did. For a long time, I really thought that God just didn't love me. It just seemed like whoever loved me, they were gonna die. It wasn't just my mom and dad that I had lost. I had lost a few aunts, my godmom. And so I had this mindset that if you love me, you're gonna die. So I found myself trying to put up, just kind of like a wall, with those who did, and not knowing how to receive it, because in my mind, I'm like, why is all this bad stuff happening? Because when I would look around, my friends, they had their moms and dads, everybody was happy, and I'm looking at my life like, wait, what's going on? Like, this is not like what I see.
Were there times in your life where maybe your attitude changed, where you found yourself, acting a little mean and a little frustrated?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
When my mother was sick, I was mean. Like, I wore all black. I was just in a bad mood. And so when it was time for me to go to the hospital to see her, my family would have to bribe me to go. They thought it was because I just didn't like her, but I was just mad. I was mad at the world that all this bad stuff had took place. I was mad that we had to move to this new place in this house with all these people. I was just mad. And so at that time in my life, I didn't know how to say, I'm hurting. I think that a lot of people just assumed that I was okay. They just assumed that I knew how to deal with this. And that was probably the biggest misassumption they could have ever assumed.
Yeah.
Because inside I was like, oh my God, I'm dying. Please help. Somebody, please.
And so what happens, it's when you have pain mixed with guilt, it's going to equal anger.
Yep.
Your pain, your hurt, your guilt, your frustration, and now your trust is being challenged. During this time, how did you handle this whole breach of trust? And what family member finally stepped up to be completely honest with you about what happened?
Well, if you talk about breach of trust, I think the breach of trust for me was not really knowing. But then the other half of, nobody told me. Like, did you guys think it would hurt me more if you told me the truth? Like, I'm hurt. And so one day I called my aunt, and I'm just like, look, can you tell me what happened? Like, I think my dad was on the down low. I think I put that together, but can you tell me exactly what happened? And so at 25, I'm on the phone in tears, like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, and so it took that for me to say, okay, now I finally really know what happened. So I felt alone a lot. I felt like no one knew what this was. No one knew how to help me, and no one knew my heartbeat. And how could they know? Because this was my life, not theirs. They watched it on the sideline, but I was in the house. I lived it. I knew things that they didn't know. And so, I had to allow God just to purge all of that out of me, because I was mean. I would have an attitude. I won't forget one time my mom, she asked me to wash her hair. And I love to do stuff for people, but again, I was in my mean mode. And so I'm like, okay, Mama, I'm gonna wash your hair, da-da-da. So I'm washing her hair, and as I'm shampooing, it falls out.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, Mom, I'm rinsing your hair and it's coming out. And I think I just dropped.
That in itself was kind of traumatic,
yeah,
though, right?
And just went in the room and started crying, because in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I touched my mom. She's dying again. You know what I'm saying? It's that whole thing of, when I touch this, it's gonna die. And so I remember just sitting there like, oh my God, this is just horrible. And I'm like, Mom, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I did. I think I shampooed it right. And she's like, well, I do have cancer on top of the AIDS, so I'm taking chemotherapy for that. And I'm like,
so you accepted some of the responsibility as a child for what your parents went through?
I did, because when I moved down here, what I would hear a lot was, you know, if your mom just wasn't with that man, we told her not to marry him. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if she wasn't with him, then I wouldn't be here. So basically what you're saying is, you don't want me here either. And I'm sure that they didn't mean it that way, but when you say that to a child, when you say things like, oh, well, if she just would have told, you know, if she just would have did what I told her to do, I told her to wait, I told her to learn more about that man, and you have the child that's from that man right there, it's like a slap in the face. Like, okay, so what are you saying about me? Like, that's my daddy. When you lose both your mom and your dad and you're an only child, on top of that, it's almost like my world is not here anymore. I went through that phase where I wanted to die. Maybe the first 5 years after I lost my mom, it was heavy. Like, okay, I just want to be with them. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. I want to be with my mom and dad. They know me. They love me. They know who I am. And it's not that the folks that I was around didn't love me, but it's not the same.
Today, you're watching part 1 of a 2-part special presentation as Creflo Dollar counsels Alicia, whose family kept a secret that ultimately claimed the lives of both of her parents by the time she was 15 years old. Maybe, like Alicia, you're in a situation where people you love have kept a secret from you and left you questioning your own reality. What's true? What's not? And where do you go from here? Next week, Creflo will talk more with Alicia and learn about the choices she made that altered the course of her life forever.
When I was a little girl, I told God, I don't know what I did, but if I can just help someone not to hurt like this,
That's so powerful.
then I feel like I have done my job. And so my defense was loving people, helping people, doing all that I could, trying to serve in whatever way I could. Like, I just really just went into that because I felt like I had to work, you know, to show God, like, God, I'm good. I don't know why all this stuff is happening, but, you know, I'm just going to bless these people, because if they hurt like I hurt, this hurt is crazy. Like, this hurt is like, you can't even have words to describe it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's like, if I can help somebody not hurt like this, then yeah, my life, it means something. And I remember just crying out to God, just saying, God, just use me in that way, because this hurts. Like, this is painful.
You know, just to hear this, it just really makes me appreciate the way that God expressed his love to you. This would not be the normal reaction to all the things that you've gone through. And yet somehow the hand of God was on your life to protect you so that this would not destroy you.
Yes.
And so in a sense, what was released to try to destroy you, would I be correct in saying made you stronger somehow?
It did.
Because
It did.
God's expressing his love to heart. I'm sitting up here thinking, you know, what?
Find out what happens to Alicia next time on Your World. Regret, shame, guilt. All of these emotions can haunt you and keep you stuck in the pain of your past. These negative emotions can also rob you of your joy and affect your health, your relationships, and even your sense of self-worth. But God, your divine creator, did not design you to carry the burden of your past. He wants you to be free from those paralyzing emotions that have held you back and kept you trapped. Today is the day that you break free from the bondage of the past and start living the life of freedom and joy He has for you. To help you get started on this path to freedom, Creflo has put together a powerful collection of products to help you let go of your painful past and start living a life filled with hope and promise. When you call today to say yes to release your past, you'll receive Creflo's 2 DVD series, Your Past Has Passed. This teaching will show you the freedom that comes when you realize your past is nothing compared to your future in God. When you get these life lessons into your hands, you will declare, the old is gone and the new has come. We'll also send you a copy of Creflo's popular CD teaching, Your Triumph in God's Love, where you'll discover that no matter what has happened in your life, God is for you and not against you, and that you can always trust His commitment to you. Plus, when you call right now with your love gift of just $30, we'll send you the unedited version of today's interview with Creflo's guest, Alicia. There's so much more to her story than what you saw today. And with this uncut DVD, you'll experience not just the raw pain of her past, but the victory she obtained through Christ. So that's the 2 DVD series, Your Past is Past, the CD teaching Your Triumph in God's Love, and the uncut version of today's broadcast, all for your love gift of just $30. And remember, when you give to this ministry, you enable us to continue spreading God's love all around the world. It's time for you to move on from the hurts of your past and begin to live in freedom. Call now.
Well, that's all the time we've got today. And listen, Alicia's story is not as uncommon as you might think. Millions of families harbor potentially devastating secrets, and maybe yours is one of them. Let me encourage you today to emerge from the dark shadows of those secrets and start living in truth. Log on to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram pages. Ask us questions, share your own story, and stay connected. You can watch today's entire program as well as all of our other shows on yourworldwithcreflo.com. And join us next week for another special peek into your world.
So that's the 2 DVD series, Your Past is Past, the CD teaching Your Triumph in God's Love, and the uncut version of today's broadcast, all for your love gift of just $30. And remember, when you give to this ministry, you enable us to continue spreading God's love all around the world. It's time for you to move on from the hurts of your past and begin to live in freedom. Call now.
Something's gotta give.
This isn't working.
Reboot your life with God's grace at the 2016 Grace Life Conference, July 11th through July 15th in Atlanta, Georgia.
Grace has made everything available, and trust and faith gets it to manifest.
For 5 days, refuel yourself with 5 speakers who will share about God's grace for the first time together.
Joy is a reflex of God's grace.
Being right with God is called righteousness, and it is a free gift. If you ever have your problem, God has already supplied you with the answer.
All the good that God wants to do in your life, it starts and ends with the grace of God.
Grace Life Conference 2016. Space is limited, so purchase your tickets online today. When visiting New York and Atlanta, join Creflo Dollar at World Changers Church International. Service times are Saturdays at 6 p.m., Sundays at 10 a.m., and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. For more information, visit us online at creflodollarministries.org. Because of you, Creflo Dollar Ministries is providing a new understanding of grace and empowering change in the lives of millions of people every day. Thank you, partners and friends. Your love and financial support makes it possible to bring this message into billions of homes all across the globe.